West Bengal, of course, from the independence time, when we had the independence, Bengal had a partition also. So we were very known for our agriculture and livestock. So the Bengal industry was dominated by agriculture and livestock. We were like 19% of the India's production we were at that time running. Jute was one of the famous products, sugarcane, rice, potatoes, all that. And then we had the partition. During the partition, what happened is, like for example, if we take jute, the jute production went to the Bangladesh side and the jute mill stayed on the Bengal side. Similarly, many agricultural lands went to the Bangladesh side, but the agricultural producing machineries stayed on this side. As a result, some of the industry, particularly the jute, on which Bengal was very much surviving and thriving at that time, did suffer a lot, and the jute prices started moving up. And during that time, or later on also, global also started to discover a lot of alternate products to the jute. The world also started to discover, because there was a lot of conflict happening between, at that time, East Pakistan, not Bangladesh, and Bengal in terms of the sharing of the jute. So the market where Bengal jute used to go, they also did not want to get into so much of confusion between the East Pakistan and Bengal fighting amongst themselves on the jute sharing, and therefore they also started to move out to other markets as well as figuring out other products. So the jute started to come down. Likewise, many such agri products started to slightly come down. But that was also a time, if you get into the history, certain construction started happening. You may be knowing Durgapur steel plant, DVC, some of the other steel plants, which started coming up in Bengal at that time. I mean, central government at that time, Jawaharlal Nehru, were all quite supportive of these plants coming up. And Bengal did show some industrial movements also during that time to compensate the agricultural losses that they were having. This is when I come to the present situation. I will get into the geopolitical situation and the advantages of the Bengal in that also. But let us just take a look at West Bengal to some extent. It could be a little boring part. We'll go to the the data and some facts. Now, these are, as much as possible, I have tried to take some data from the September 2021 from the IBEF and West Bengal government published data and all these things. Now, I'll give you, you do not really need to remember this number, but I'll give you the meaning of these numbers. You can see that the population density, this population density of the Bengal is far higher than many other states. Far higher than many others. So this is a very vastly populated state. And what does this mean? This means that this is a consuming state. So from an industry's perspective, so this is a consumption state. The state consumes. As a result, we benefited when the GST came in, because since this is a consumption state, so therefore for any industry, this parameter is to be shown that this is not a state which will just be manufacturing. The consumption also can actually happen here, because it's a populated state. Now, related to that, you may ask, it's a populated state, this 97.9 million total population which we have, close to 10 crore, but are these 10 crores capable of buying something, or is this a very poor 10 crores? Actually, no. The rural side of Bengal, if you go to, the buying ability is very good. The buying, because of our MSME strength and because of our some other ability, the buying ability of the rural side of the Bengal is very high. And this, when we have also from Pricewaterhouse or KPMG moved around and spoken to the industry domain, they also have mentioned that the buying ability of that state is a very attractive thing for us. We have always been saying that Bengal is the gateway to the ASEAN market, gateway to the Northeast. That was always there, nothing new. And we were always been saying that ASEAN is the economic tiger, the ASEAN will develop at one point in time. Bengal along with Bangladesh, because we have a direct linkage to the Bangladesh by the road corridor, by the air corridor, as well as to the Dhaka, Chittagong port, Ashuganj port, Kolkata's Calcutta port, Haldia port, and now you all know the Tajpur port coming up. This should be a very strategic. You know why this is becoming more important now? Because the fear which we always had that the European market or the American market, which was more a market for an exporter, will possibly at some point in time get a hit. And because of the Russia-Ukraine, which is a recent phenomenon, but it's still a phenomenon, and that phenomenon can occur anytime, anywhere in the thing. And we have already seen the Middle East thing. Now, that is significantly affecting the logistics of the movement of the goods to that parts of the world. It's significantly affecting and also the economy. And therefore, talk to any multinational, their focus is very much on the expansion in the ASEAN market. How do I really import my materials from the ASEAN market? How do I export my goods to the ASEAN market? When the COVID happened, we were talking to a Sri Lankan firm, a Ceylonese firm, whose entire 90% of his imports on a textile was coming from China. In a month or two, that Ceylonese firm had to completely wind themselves up because China was gone in terms of the production, and they had no supply of the raw material, and therefore they were talking to us as a consulting firm, KPMG, PwC, engaging, figure out that what could be an alternate source of supply, and what could be an alternate supply chain and the logistics. And every time they were coming and said that, can we do something through the ASEAN market and to the east side of the Bengal, Bangladesh, because they are also into textile, they are also producing ready-made garments. So can that be done? So this geopolitical situation, the continuous unrest in the Middle East, the continuous unrest now coming in the European market, we do not know. Also some of the economic turbulence in the American market also, because America also economically at this point in time is not doing very well, is making most of the countries focus on these ASEAN and the SAARC nations. So there are around 12, if I am not mistaken, there are 12 powerful countries in this ASEAN market and the SAARC nation, Korea, and also the other factor is everyone wants to come out of China's control. From a decades data, you will see that our contributions in every manner has really gone up. It's like our tax revenues is up, gross state domestic product is up. But the fact is that we're doing quite well on one matter. GSDP doesn't matter actually, but what we are doing well is GSDP per capita. It's a populated state, so the denominator goes up significantly. Even then, our GSDP per capita is quite well, at least from the published data that we see. But you know where we lack is, in fact, that is a parameter which is the World Bank also is continuously debating with India, not just the Bengal. They are saying, World Bank is now saying that the GDP is not a real measure to really make one understand how a country is performing. GDP is not a good measure. Why? GDP is not a good measure, and what is the alternate then they are bringing in? They are saying GVA is a good measure, which is the gross value added. And what do you mean by GVA? Bengal, when we are coming to this, Bengal has a huge potential of the GVA, because when they published, when World Bank, there is a 2017 report, you will see there is a report called GVA report from the World Bank if you are interested, the Global Supply Chain and GVA report. They keep on publishing every year. 2017 they started. They actually have shown that the value addition to any such large product which may be finally produced in a developed country and consumed in a developed country, but the intermediate value addition when they have actually shown the entire supply chain will be very strongly within the ASEAN side. So the consumption in a developed country, production in a developed country, but in between the product will travel through all these 12, 13 ASEAN and the South Asian market, which the World Bank report was showing. As a result, they mentioned, and it was also showing that the Bengal, which I already touched upon, taking that position, which has a strong linkage, roadways and by the waterways to the ASEAN market, has a very strong position to take increased GVA for the country as well as the world. Here, we have definitely lot of policies, lot of industry conducive, industry friendly policies. I just do not want to take you the details of a policy for the micro and small industries, tourism policy, many that being while in PwC and KPMG, we also have actually participated in those policy formulation. We have a logistics policy also. But one thing one actually needs to do, and again I am requesting you as a IS thing when you will be in the department thing, that how much of these policies have actually percolated down and how much of these policies to the last dots is been appropriately implemented. And how much of these policies, which are even good policies, not just from an execution perspective within the departments, but also whoever is coming, they know about our policies. That's very important, because having a policy and implementing a policy, there's a big difference. I started by saying that I'm a consultant, I have no accountability of implementation. We can create, so I would request that you should not also be just a policy formulator, you should also be getting more into the implementation of the policies and seeing up to the last person in the rural side also, whenever they are trying to do something, how much are they really aware of these policies, and what kind of steps are we taking to bring even the outside people to the awareness about these policies. This is also here, I will make a request to you. We have all these things. We have a single window facilitation center, we have a Shilpo Sathi, that if I want to spend 10,000 crores here, I know, but we have everything in place. But I think we have to be a little bit more careful about the implementation of this. Because we have everything in policy, but when I'm actually stepping into the WBIDC as a Maharashtra guy, as an investor with 10,000 crores in my pocket, coming here to buy 250 acres of land and help it. Now, I of course say, look, come to Bengal, we have all these things. But from the reception to the guy whom I will be talking to, is he aware of all these things? Does he know that I get, because there are many such things which have actually been done in many states, that one single person to be my contact if I'm going there, and within a defined timeline of 7 days this will all get cleared. So therefore, from a policy perspective we have, but again one has to see the training, awareness, implementation, measuring of the performances of the people by seeing also whether they have actually done these things or not, what kind of turnaround time did they provide to a customer who coming in, how many rejections happened, they came in but they didn't reject Bengal. So those parameters need to be governed and checked. But from a policy, we definitely can compete with any other states. And this is our approval system I've given. And this is a very good slide that you may be actually using, that if somebody comes here, what kind of help from which department they will actually be having. And this is an assignment that we did. There was a lot of differences between WBIDC, WBIIDC, WBIDFC. So there were 3-4 such entities in terms of the land policy and the pricing of the land. The Bengal government also took steps, engaged a consulting firm. We made it very uniform. So a lot of things have been done. So if somebody comes in, what are the departments they actually need to touch for doing this? But if we can really streamline and make these things a smoother one by having a mother body here, just I go there, he does everything and delivers me what I wanted to do. So that will be a very, very helpful thing to do. But at least for you, which department is handling this, you can get that from there. FDI inflow, I mean, compared to many other leading states, you will find it's not bad. It may not be as high as many other states, but here also you must also to understand that from an international people, they do not really have any uneasiness about investing here. There will be more easiness now, because I gave you the geopolitical situation, that why Bengal can become more attractive because of they wanting to move, and they will be more comfortable here doing the business in the ASEAN country through Bengal because of many other reasons than actually establishing something in Bangladesh or doing something in Myanmar and trying to create a base for the ASEAN market here. Export trend and the items. Now here our export trend will be, I mean, if I ignore the iron and steel and all that, it will be very much to the small scale leather goods, rice, to the MSME. Now this is where I think one really needs to create a huge amount of work and awareness to the MSME people that where to and how to export. Like if I want to send like we have been working on a shrimp export, and Bengal is good on shrimp. I mean, not so much like the south is now taking the shrimps also away. We are getting more processed shrimps than the natural shrimp. It's a strange thing that Bengal produces shrimp. We have not been able to generate such a shrimp processing industry. So it goes to south, shrimp processing happens there, comes back to Bengal again of the processed shrimp. But Vietnam, say for example, is very much a taker of shrimp and shrimp processing because Vietnam exports. Now, a shrimp producer, and all the shrimp producers will not be a big company that who will be knowing. A shrimp producer will actually need to know that which country and how I should be producing this. I'm producing a shrimp in my own village in some manner, how I would actually be sending. So, a lot of awareness and channels need to be created. Our industrial infrastructure, our industrial park. We mentioned you that the MSME, so we have many such industrial clusters and park. But if you can actually create a strategy for that MSME cluster, now these MSME clusters have kept on developing. What do these clusters need? The clusters are very good concepts where the MSMEs are coming, they're sharing, the clusters need automation. Now there is an automation, we also once brought in Dassault Systems and National Institute of Design to bring an automation here among the clusters here. The clusters need automation, but if one can actually do district by district identification of the skills, district by district identification of what they produce well, and then map them to the various clusters, and also work out the connectivities from these clusters for getting the raw materials and moving the goods out of the clusters and working out an export strategy for each of these clusters, then this cluster thing can really go to an unimaginable proportions. So the ecosystem around the cluster, so the financing of the cluster, the automation partner of the cluster, the connectivity of the cluster, and the district by district mapping of the skills produced which will come to this cluster, and the skills development for this cluster. Initially, you may remember I said that though we mentioned we have a lot of skills, but the skills need to be changed, because the way we have been producing leather at some point in time, we may not be producing leather now. So therefore, the skills need to be changed. With the greenness coming in, with the demand from a sustainability perspective, there are a lot of things that need to be changed. So these are certain data that is useful to you, but I mentioned I have a problem as a consultant that I talk much and talk much more, not on the data, but on the general stuff. So I think along with that, this strategy for the cluster can be built up. Then with this cluster that we have already created, this can go into a huge proportion. And this is exactly what the European MSME clustering model has done. Thank you.